Bilinguals of Reddit, what's your? They didn't know I spoke their language story. Part 2. I'm an American and English-German bilingual. My high school hosted some exchange students from Austria. My family hosted a student. We were the only German-speaking host family. None of the exchange students except the one living at my house knew I know German. Americans are notoriously bad at foreign language, so the Austrians assumed I was monolingual. Anyway, I was hanging out with some of the exchange students and other hosts, and one of the Austrian kids told a joke to the other Austrians in German. I laughed. He asked, "Why are you laughing? You're just laughing because we're laughing?" My exchange student said, "No, she knows German." "Ja, ich verstehe alles," I confirmed. Oh shit, now we can't trash talk the Americans anymore. This happened in high school. My homeroom teacher sent me to the principal's office with some paperwork that was requested. As I walk in, I see this one guy in the principal's office, tall black dude, we'll call him Mr. J, and he is speaking fluent Spanish with the Spanish teacher. I drop off the papers with the secretary and go back to class. It's almost end of day and I'm in my English class and we have a substitute teacher, Mr. J. Well, kids being kids, no one is listening to him, and one of my classmates, Millie, who's sitting on the other side of the room from me, starts bad-mouthing him in Spanish to 3 other girls. I kept telling her to shut up, but she wouldn't listen and just went on and on. He heard me try to warn her and motioned for me to stop, so I stopped. And that's when he began talking back to her in Spanish. I didn't say a thing, and the whole class died laughing. Millie then began to yell at me for not warning her, and Mr. J told her, "She tried to warn you but you didn't listen." She and the other girls got detention for about a week. It's a reverse of this actually. I didn't know they spoke my language. I asked my mom in Vietnamese if I could have the Mexican ice cream near checkout. That shit is the best thing ever, and was begging her since she thought I had too many sweets. This older white man turns around and says it's pretty good ice cream. In our language. Me and my mom blankly stared at him in awe. It was the first time I've ever heard a white man speak Vietnamese. It wasn't flawless, but I could understand him. It was actually pretty freaking great. He noticed our faces and was just like, "Yeah, my wife's family does the same." I'm fairly tattooed and I was working in retail, in a shoe shop. I was serving a very rude woman and her daughter, both of whom clearly thought they were better than me, and every time they asked for shoes they told me, in English, that I was very slow to fetch them and bad at my job. I was only on like my 3rd shift. The atmosphere turned pretty sour because obviously they were being rude, and it annoyed me, and as I was boxing up the shoes they wanted, the mother turned and said to her daughter something like, "Don't ever get tattoos, this is the kind of person that has them, working in retail with absolutely no brains, and tattoos reflect that." Blah 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 in Italian. I simply replied, "Non sono d'accordo, ma grazie, I disagree, but thank you." She looked absolutely humiliated and quickly left. When I was in Seoul, I had a hat made that says Beijing, which literally means white person in Korean. After leaving that shop, I went to the bus stop where an old Korean man noticed my hat, and was just openly chuckling and enjoying its humor. He even got his equally old friend's attention to point out that someone had tricked the silly white boy to buy a hat that labeled him as a gringo. Then, my bus pulls up, and just before getting on, I turn to them and say, "What the hat says is true, isn't it?" And the 180-degree change in their facial expressions was fantastic. 10/10 would make hat again. Wait. If I'm reading this correctly, the term for white person is sounded out as bacon?